Driving through large areas of tea plantations, I am in Kerala, about 3,500 feet over sea level in the Nelliyam Pathis, a mountain region within the Western Ghats. Where in former times only tribals roamed, planters from England arrived in 1877 and started growing coffee. But then by 1930, nearly all planters had left the hardly accessible region. Only after the Nimara Road was opened in 1932, a small road I am to enter soon, this hill region came back to life and successful plantations were developed. Passing the last bastion of civilization, the small village of Puliyampara. And after 7 kilometers on the Nimara Road, the entrance of a multi-crop farm lies ahead, the Poabs Group Sithargundu Estate. The bus you see leaving turns out to be a school bus. A school bus in a plantation? Poabs Sithargundu is situated between the plains you see from the Kolengo Rift, which is a natural boundary to the plains. On the other side, Poabs fences a large sanctuary rich in wildlife, including lions, tigers, leopards and elephants, to name only a few. In between, the farm itself looks like a park, hosting about 48 varieties of jungle trees and at least 20 varieties of birds. At certain times, visitors may enjoy a chorus of triumphantly rejoicing birds. So, what appears more a jungle park than a farm, in reality is a worldwide operating and awarded multi-crop farm, recognized by Demeter and Natuurland, Germany, Skal International Netherlands, the Fair Trade Labeling Organization. It conforms to the National Organic Program of the United States Department and to Japan agricultural standards. The quality management systems of the estate have been awarded by the Bureau Veritas Quality International of the United Kingdom. But how can the crops grow in a jungle-like place? As a matter of fact, all these trees are a necessary part of the farm. Mr. Thomas Jacob, since 1989, the director of the project.
The main purpose of having the trees in an organic farm is basically for the shade, because shade plays a major role as far as an organic farm is concerned.
Major role means it is most important to grow special shade trees together with coffee seedlings. Coffee is grown in 3 brands and several varieties of Arabica, Robusta and Liberia. Liberia, which is grown on trees, is of minor quality and for sale in local markets only. But then there is tea, and there are by far less trees in between.
Tea, of course, doesn't require much of the shade, so we cannot have a coffee in between. It's a larger area which requires more of sunshine. At the same time, coffee needs a lot of shade. So we need to identify these areas, and we are located on a height which is suitable for both tea and coffee.
Tea is from a single strain of tea plants, and all these plants were planted in the year 1993 only. Pepper is grown as a climbing plant on trees like silver oak, yak tree and others, both interspersed on tea fields and in coffee areas with a lot of shade as well. Compared to tea and coffee, pepper production is in 3rd position of importance. Cardamom plants are grown like coffee plants in forest-like shady areas of the plantation. Growing vanilla is given a try only so far. Bananas are grown for local markets and personal use. Freeze-dried samples are kept for special demand. Old orange trees as a part of the park-like jungle, as well as young trees, among them citrus trees, are grown for own use only. Really a multi-crop farm. But cattle on a plantation? To grow crops successfully, fecund soil is required, and to keep it fertile you need compost. In a secluded area like a hill region, it might be an act of self-sufficiency to keep cattle, as its dung is an essential part of composting. With biomass like weeds and softwood, which are the tender portions of trees or plants devoid of lignin which facilitate easier composition, all of them put together, Poabs produces sufficient compost for effective growing. All these items are mixed once a week. After about 6 months, the compost becomes powder and is ready for use in the field. Besides compost, water is a main factor to grow crops. At Sitargundu, it is available and free, coming down in glittering streams from the forests uphill, passing the farm to the plains. With an average rainfall of 4,000 mm annually, there is hardly any shortage of water. A dry fallen drain is an exception. But if so, there are 52 check dams at the estate that secure irrigation anyway. And these dams are good for more.
Actually, there is like a gold mine as far as an organic farm is concerned, because you get a lot of humus from these kind of silt. To increase the capacity of our dams, we had to remove some of the silt that has been deposited in these dams for a long time. We could cover all the rocky areas with this silt and soil and grow the grass on top of it, which forms a shelter belt and which prevents the plants which are near to the rocky areas from getting dried up in summer.
So, keeping the soil fertile by components all from the farm itself with sufficient water around, one might call it real self-sufficiency.
We would call it in a broader way, we call it holistic self-sustainable, which means that it's self-contained. Everything is inside the farm. We try to maintain a cycle for everything. So maximum recycling, minimum inputs.
One example?
If you take you must have seen some of these ducks in the water. Their droppings forms food for the fish, and the fish goes into meat for the workers here. And again, all the waste goes to the compost. You must have seen the water there. It's again for irrigation. So all these processes are actually a cycle. You cannot have one with it, like a chain of a cycle. It's all linked together. If you break one, you cannot run the whole farm.
Holistic self-sustenance, sufficient clean water. But what about fertilizer and pesticides to increase fertility and keep the crops pest-free respectively? What is the meaning of organic in this context?
Now here what we are doing is we are completely dependent on natural products. Whatever we make, like pesticides or manure, compost that we are making here, it's all from inside the farm. It's all in the natural way. We don't use any pesticides or chemicals that is actually harmful for the human beings.
So, organic means, in addition to self-sustenance, to avoid using chemicals by making special biodynamic preparations from organic material grown or produced all on the farm, as the field manager of the estate explains.
CPP, cow part pit.
Special compost is prepared on the basis of cow dung and with ingredients like hen's dung, eggshells and herbs grown at the farmland. Herbs like yarrow, chamomile, sting nettle, dandelion and valerian, all used after being dried and kept dry in jugs.
CPP ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന കാര്യം പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ. ആ CPP ആണ് ഇത്. ഇത് 3 അടി നീളമുള്ള 3 അടി നീളം 2 അടി വീതി 1.5
Filled in pits and kept there for a special period, the mixture can be used as special compost mixed with normal compost to increase the effect of fertilizing. Also for preparation of stem pastes, which would help to keep off boring insects and also nourishing the plant through stern. It can also be mixed with BD 500, a special soil activator, and used as a spray. This soil activator is being made by dung from the lactating cow. Filled in cow horns and kept top-bottom in the pit. Buried on a special day according to the planting calendar in September, it is ready for use in March. Similarly, horns are filled with silica and used as a plant booster sprayed on plants. To optimize the process of growing and producing plants, a laboratory is set up at Poabs for all kinds of analysis. That way, the quality of compost like density and moisture are guaranteed, as well as the condition of soil is examined, for example, its phosphor balance. In addition to that, all products are supervised regularly. And of course, all diseases, if there were any, are analyzed to find proper antidote. To prevent plants from getting diseases, instead of using chemicals, at Poabs, special liquids are being produced. Therefore, herbs like tulsi and marigold are grown at the farm. Or wild-growing sunflowers, for example, are used. Cow dung, cow urine, and one of the herbs with small proportions of biogen are given into barrels. The whole mass, stirred several times, once a week diluted and mainly kept in properly tightened bags, is ready for spraying plants as well as weeds, which is most important to keep the latter free of diseases since it is part of the compost. So, growing organic crops is a highly professional matter at Poabs, which requires highly trained supervisors and workers as well. This is why training programs are conducted by governmental experts in biodynamics at Poabs, and interactive training sessions are being held regularly to keep supervisors and workers as well up to date with the demands of organic growing and to inform about newly developed methods of treatment. These sessions are always accompanied by outdoor demonstrations on relevant issues like pruning tea or coffee plants respectively. The nursery. The philosophy of holistic self-sustenance requires the development of own seedlings. At the nursery, extreme care and attention are given to this, because this is the infant stage. If some disease is noticed in any seedling, it is immediately removed from the nursery to prevent the disease from spreading. To run a farm of a size like Poabs, it is not done by a few people only. Apart from planting, maintaining, harvesting and producing crops, a lot of more work is required. All in all, Poabs employs about 600 workers on an average and nearly 60 staff members. To find such a workforce ready to work in a plantation seems quite impossible in a secluded hill region. A disadvantage, but Poabs has to cope with that.
Unless you have a place like this to run the organic farm, you cannot do organic farming actually. If you have one person above you who is doing conventional farming, your organic farming is finished. So we need to have isolated areas where we could prevent the chemicals or other flow into our land, leachate flowing into our land. So we have to get places where it is isolated from other conventional farms. That is one reason. So when we go in for some isolated places, we'll have to bring people to stay in the farm and give them all the facilities. Otherwise, they will not come for work.
Thus, nobody except for seasonal work is required from outside. All staff members and workers and their families are living at the plantation in houses scattered all over the place. Well paid instead of being exploited like plantation workers in other countries, at Poabs one gets the impression of a community where all people live together, may it be director, manager, specialist or farm worker. well organized and on good terms with each other. Some reasons for that are offered by the director.
We could give a lot of facilities like dispensaries, electricity, water supply, good sanitation and drinking water. And we have even giving provision stores for, otherwise people have to go a long way to buy their provisions and come and cook in their houses here. So we are running a provision store which is at a subsidized rate.
Free electricity, free water supply, and a free allotment of healthy milk at the dairy farm. That is, milk from cows that are fed by organically grown grass and maize, and from cows cured of diseases, if there were any, by Ayurvedic measures and medicines only. Free cure of people at the dispensary. Less serious cases are dealt with by a pharmacy diploma holder with 35 years of experience. Serious cases are referred to a medical college for better treatment outside. The provision store. Their provisions and vegetable items are provided to workers at a subsidized rate.